The Big Lebowski, take one. Hey, what's happening, everybody? I am your host, Chad. This is my co-host,
Arianna. Hi, guys.
And Arianna just got to watch The Big Lebowski for the first time. So, let's get into it. All right, Arianna, let's get into some initial thoughts. What do you got? Not your favorite, right?
No!
That's all right.
It wasn't bad. Like, I definitely laughed and it gave me humor. It's just, for me, I think in my brain, this movie has been so hyped up.
Sure, that happens to me, too.
I feel like that's what happened. It's like, I have so many friends from, like, college and stuff who, like, live by it. Like, it's their favorite movie they've ever seen.
They're always like, oh, the rug really tied the room together.
Yeah. And it was just one of those things where it's like, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't for me. That's all. That's the only thing I have to say. Like,
I get that,
like, it would have been a lot different, like I had said. Like, if I was, like, sitting on my couch and I could, like, kind of, like, absentmindedly scroll, smoke a bowl, and, like, you know what I mean? It would have been a little bit more enjoyable. But to just go in this, like, all I'm supposed to do when I do these movies is pay attention to the movie and enjoy the movie. And I was just like, I'm not in your fictional world. I think that's just what it was.
How many characters did you kind of know? How many actors did you know from other stuff?
All of them.
Yeah, so did any of them really stick out from having different roles than they normally do?
Julianne Moore.
Yeah, right.
Hers was good. I enjoyed her character because she was so weird.
Very weird. Very
and I love that for her. I guess for me, it was like, I understood what they were going for with each character, with the exception of, like, the dude and Walter.
Okay.
It just didn't land for me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I got it. Like, it landed for them. I totally, like, you know what I mean? But I don't know. It was flat somewhere. But that's just, like I said, my personality, like, my take of it. Like, I didn't think it was a bad movie by any means. It just, like I said, I think because it was, I've heard so many, like, I just thought for sure, obviously going to come out, this be like, we're adding this to the vault.
That best movie I've ever seen. Yeah.
Like, we're adding this to the vault, and it just wasn't there for me.
Yeah, for sure. So you said that those two characters didn't land for you. I'm glad you said that because I have something to say about that. What about... You said that, like, some of the humor worked, some of it didn't. What are the parts that did land for you? What are the parts that worked for you?
Okay, well, I said it. Besides Walter and the dude, nothing else landed for me.
Oh, I thought you were saying that the characters, you knew what they were doing except for Walter and the dude.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So you're saying that you did get Walter and the dude.
I
and
got
the other
them.
Ones were rough. Okay, got it.
Got it. You know what I mean? It's like, it just, I knew what they were going for out of them. It just, for me, it wasn't portrayed. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
it was just flat. It was just like... But
no, I don't like this movie on face value as much as a lot of my friends like the movie on face value.
Right.
Which I guess we can get into it now. The thing that does work for me on this movie is I think that it is a really fun kind of, not takedown, but reinterpretation of basically this is a film noir. This is a hard-boiled detective story, but obviously all of the feel is completely wrong.
Right.
So some of the things that they twist on their head, especially with, like, the dude being, this kind of, like, flower power hippie kind of guy, also taking place, like, in... What is it, the 90s?
Early 90s.
Yeah, exactly, right. So everyone feels like a real weird relic of their time, right? So, in your noir, you normally have the hard-boiled Humphrey Bogart detective who doesn't play around, and instead we've got this total twist of it with this dude who doesn't care about anything. He knows he's a loser. He's almost proud of the fact that he's a loser. Even within the structure of the story, I think the main theme of it is basically taking that story and then injecting a huge amount of nihilistic theory into it. So in the beginning of the movie, the dude is preparing for this bowling tournament. And by the end of the movie, we don't even go to the bowling tournament. We don't lose the bowling tournament. We don't even go. It's just, he's still preparing for the bowling tournament. So everything that happened in between meant nothing. And I think a fun parallel that they show in the movie is that they keep bringing up the Gulf War, right? It's like this aggression won't stand. The old noir movies normally had the backdrop of World War II, which was very serious. And so they're spies, and it's like, these guys work for the Germans. And this movie has the backdrop of the freaking Gulf War, which is like nothing. It was basically this huge maneuver that meant nothing, just like how the movie is this huge maneuver that means nothing. Things just keep happening.
Right.
And all of it ends up being this giant circle jerk. The movie is actually based, so it's called The Big Lebowski. It's kind of a retelling of an old Humphrey Bogart noir movie called The Big Sleep.
Okay.
And in that movie, he ends up getting hired by a guy that we find out he was actually the mastermind behind like the criminal thing. And he was looking for a fall guy, which was Humphrey Bogart. And in this movie, he's looking for the fall guy, which is him. So it's like a lot of the stuff that feels frustrating because the movie is purposely not doing the things that movies are supposed to do is coming from this this basically purposeful deconstruction of the stuff you expect from something like The Big Sleep. Because you watch it and you're like, this is the Coen brothers. Like, they know what they're doing. So why did they make such a meandering mess that doesn't go anywhere?
Right.
And it's like, oh, it's because it was purposely like, hey, you know the thing. So now here's like this modern day almost, version of it. And another big trope that happens in noir films is being haunted by like the sins of your past and them coming back. And I think the way they played with that in this one is that every character basically is individually stuck in the past of some kind of specific, they're representations of them. So the dude is stuck in the 70s flower power movement. Walt is stuck in the Vietnam War and can't let it go. Maud is stuck in the like avant-garde kind of art scene or whatever. And again, this takes place in the 90s. All of these people are stuck in like the 80s or the 70s or the 60s or the 50s or whatever. Even the porn guy is stuck with like the
he does mention that. Yes, absolutely. The mansion, the Malibu mansion that looks exactly like a porn set.
Yes, exactly. The Hugh Hefner thing.
I see that. So for sure.
They almost all represent like a different decade that they're all kind of stuck in. And so then you're left with basically just this kind of these layers of jokes and whether or not the jokes work for you. And for me, it's the situation of like, I think some of it is very funny. I think most of the Walt stuff is hilarious. I think that's what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass is super funny.
It's just like everything like is so extreme with him, and I could see like what archetype they were going with him. Like I know many of them.
I know them.
I know them very well in my own personal home.
Yeah,
they're
in my family. Yeah,
it's good.
Oh, yeah.
It's good, and we're real close.
He's like, it's gonna be nice and easy, just like Nam. He's like, why do you keep talking about Nam? We didn't even win that one.
Like, it doesn't matter. Not everything can be brought back to
Nam. With like Dottie.
It has
nothing to do with Nam. Poor Dottie.
But I'm like, oh my god. And like, I don't mean that in a bad way, no disrespect, but I'm like, I know what that looks like too. So like, and he was just funny. And John Goodman did a great job. Like his facial expression,
so
like
good.
He's like, we're dealing with amateurs. I don't think we're amateurs. No, they're amateurs. Like, well, you told me she kidnapped herself. I did say I was sure.
It was just a theory. Him and his I can get you a toe.
I can get you a toe right now. Put some nail polish
with polish.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
the nihil. Well, and that's the thing too. Yeah. I mean, this one's even on the nose because like he keeps calling like the weird terrorist people nihilist and stuff like that. So it's that's even playing into like this is what this theme is. So yeah, man, I think it's very the Coens almost have two types of movies. A lot of their movies either feel, and I'm trying to think of how to like style, energy wise, pacing wise, kind of like a No Country for Old Men. I would say Fargo has more in common with like the No Country for Old Men kind of type. And then their other half are movies that are just comedies. And so that's like Hail Caesar and Raising Arizona. Okay. And they tend to be more frantic. Oh, another one that's like a No Country type is like a Serious Man. But then they kind of have the Oh Brother Where Art Thou's, where they're a lot more fun. There's a lot more levity. This movie is like super oozing in levity.
Yeah.
And the tone feels fun, but I think thematically they're interesting because they all are very similar.
Yeah,
there's still this kind of just,
for sure.
Life is a trash bag.
So this is like this is the third one I've watched so far, Coen film, and I would say that it's like the middle of Fargo and the middle of No Country for Old Men for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's like, or like Fargo would be the middle, and then
the other way, okay.
And then so Fargo would be the middle, and then that's like the sandwich. It would be the Big Lebowski, Fargo, and this one has like the sandwich in how I feel like lighter side, but still like, kitschy.
Yeah, with the style, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? Like Fargo had just enough of the No Country for Old Men over here for
seriousness,
me. It had just the right amount, but the humor to keep me invested. So that's why I loved Fargo, because it had amount, and this over here just didn't have as much seriousness on it as what I prefer. So I think that's
where thematically I would switch it around, because Fargo is probably one of the least nihilistic ones, because you do end up with an ending where the good guys win, the bad guys go to jail, they die. And there's a bit more, I mean, there's almost something magical, hyper-realism about her, kind of like her husband wins, or he gets third place, but still, it's like, we got a good thing going on here, Norm. Exactly. So it does kind of feel like the universe is how it should be. And then you have like the Big Lebowski, where it's just kind of like everyone spun their wheels for a long time and nothing really changed. I'm still just preparing for the bowling match. And then on the far end, you have No Country for Old Men, where it's like the good guys lose, the bad guys win, and the guy who watched it all doesn't know what to make out of all of it.
Right.
So it is a fun kind of three movies to watch. And so as we get deeper into it, that's going to be a big thing I want you to kind of think about while you're watching, is just that theming and how they're telling the story. Because stories that don't seem to be like about nihilism still have these huge through lines of how the universe just doesn't give a fuck, man. Like, just things happen. So it's always like, whenever because I for a long time thought I didn't like the Big Lebowski, but like, it's one of those things where I trust them so much because they're so good at their craft. It's like, if I'm not liking it, what am I missing?
I would say, you putting it into perspective, it's not that it changed my mind, because also the constant amount of just like random like LSD flashbacks. I was just like, this could be done now for me. This is how I felt. Like
that
I
big
said,
scene towards the end.
Yeah,
too.
that big scene towards the end. That's where it got me. Like the other couple ones, I was like, oh, that's funny. You know what I mean? Like I found that humorous. And the last one, I was like, this could literally be overnight time. Like I said, if I was smoking pot and I was just chilling on my couch and I didn't have to make sure I'm not missing anything, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But that's not what we're doing here.
No, I get it. No, I totally get it. I've been there. Yeah. And it's not like in my S tier echelon for them. But a lot of that has to do with my sensibilities of I'm not as into comedies.
That's fair.
So it's like No Country for Old Men is not only like my favorite Coen Brothers movie, but it's like one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time because I really vibe with that. Like the universe hates you kind of feel.
That was a little dark.
Yeah, and but it's like as far as like just filmmakers though, I mean, to me they're like the gold standard. It's like it's what I think about when I want to write and think about stories. It's like the depth and layers that they get into, as well as like referencing something like The Big Sleep. I would bet most of your friends who say this is their favorite movie have never even heard of The Big Sleep. So
I would agree. Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
So I really like that they are able to capture that market when they want to, but then still layer on all of these kind of deconstructionist themes into the movie. And it makes a lot of things that feel random. Like, why did they do this? It's like, oh, all of that was very well orchestrated and thought about, and exactly was trying to say something about something.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fucking cool. So, hey, let's go ahead and get into some community comments. JRams517 says, there's a theory that Donnie isn't even real. He's just some imaginary friend of Walter's.
That really wouldn't surprise me much.
At all, because if you think about it, he almost affects the story not at all.
Not at all.
Except obviously, like, he dies and the dude, like, accepts the stuff, that he died. But I think it's so funny, like, the whole movie, he really seems to only kind of interact.
He only talks with when Walter's, like, on the screen. Well, the one time, there was that one other time, but when he's 20 minutes late and he comes with the dog, Donnie is already there.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah, I just love the idea that, because it's really just mostly Walt yelling at him, and everyone else doesn't even
really acknowledge him at all.
Yes, acknowledge him. That's the word I was looking for. Also, the fact that a lot of the other big blow-ups that Walt has, it seems like other people acknowledge that he's doing them, but whenever they yell at Donnie, like, no one even thinks about it. Like, no one feels bad for Donnie.
It's true.
And he's not even doing anything rude. Like, it's so funny. I love it. Another one here is that Jeff Bridges apparently wore his own clothing from home. It wasn't movie wardrobe. So.
There's the one point in time I'm looking at him, he's got on the tan sweater, and he's got the printed pants and the I think purple or maroonish V-neck, and I was like, I've definitely seen some dudes in this town wear that non-ironically, so you know what, doesn't shock me at all.
Well, it's also kind of a fun
it's Jesus. Also coming back.
There's a Jesus deconstruction going on with this too. I mean, obviously you have the Jesus. Nobody fucks with the Jesus.
Yeah.
And there's John Turturro, and then what's happening there is that it's you find out later that he's a sex offender. Yeah. And then with the dude, he's dressed with this long hair and the robe and stuff like that. So it really feels like there was some statement being made about kind of the deconstruction of religion around. It's just, I don't know, man. These guys are just freaking sick. And then we also just had a handful of people in here who were kind of sharing your sentiment that they feel like the movie's very overrated. And so I get where they're coming from, because I had a very similar relationship with the movie in the past, like you did, where it was a lot of my stoner friends were like, oh, this is just my all-time favorite movie. And then they would list other movies of theirs that were their all-time favorites, and it'd be something like Clerks or something. The difference is I do think that this movie is very purposefully and artistically putting together a lot of these themes, using things that seem completely ridiculous if you don't spend more time digging into it. Whereas I do think that Clerks or better examples like Mallrats is kind of just what you see is what you get.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing that is impressive to me about Clerks that keeps me invested is just how it was made with just no budget, just some kids basically trying to make a movie, and what they pulled off is pretty impressive. But when you get to Mallrats, you actually have a full studio backing behind it, and then you still end up with kind of the same thing. It's just kind of a lot of stoner comedy, and it's whatever. So yeah, that is episode 3 of our Coen Brothers journey. Actually, you know what I might even do? I might put these in a separate playlist. You know what I might start doing? I might start doing playlists by director. All right, well, hey, thanks for hanging. Oh, I guess one more thing.
What?
Let's go ahead and get into... Does this movie make it into the space pod?
Into the space pod. Is that what we're calling it? The time capsule, the vault, whatever it is.
The aliens are coming.
The aliens are coming.
In the future. We're all going to be all burnt out. We global warmed ourselves to death. We got too warm. Does this one go in the vault?
You know what? For me, no.
Yeah, sure.
For probably 85% of the population, yes. So, I mean,
forget them.
For me, no. I'm not putting it in my pod.
Yeah. Do you have... I don't want it in there because there's something else that should be in there?
I feel
Do you have that yet?
Yeah. But I don't know what... But do you want me to compare, to it instead.
You don't have to get in depth, but if you had like, okay, if there's another movie that's kind of pulling off what this movie is pulling off, then, you know, it could just be this.
No, I don't have that in my
Okay,
brain.
that's fair, but you may not have it yet. I think in the future you might have a feeling.
Okay, I was like, I don't really know. It's just that one. It's not that one.
I don't. It's not from just sheer I love the movie so much that I would want it in there, but I do appreciate that it is a deconstruction of a genre that doesn't get deconstructed very often.
That's fair. No, so absolutely. Because like, I'd have to go back in and look at it that way, though, too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Like I said, I went in expectations far too high.
Well, and I think when I saw it the first time, I was a kid. So I wasn't thinking about, the themes are so...
Right.
But I also think, like... I may find room for things that are deconstructions if there's a genre that doesn't get it all the time. Cool. For instance, like, I want to do a two-parter at some point of knocking out Tombstone, which is a very classic, fun, on-the-nose comedy story. I'm sorry, cowboy story. Western, and then The Unforgiven, which is this hard-boiled deconstruction that basically says everything you saw in that movie was a lie. And it wasn't really like that, and most of us were drunk, and a lot of the shootouts you see weren't shootouts, they were assassinations. Some guy just stumbled out of the bar drunk, and another guy walked up and just shot him in the liver like a coward, and that's what it was really like. And we're not proud, and killing people costs something from you, and it, like, you know, and all of us have PTSD from, like, all the murders we did. It's you know, it's just this different thing.
Yes.
And so I would have, like,
goosey bumps.
Room for those kinds of movies. Clint Eastwood. With this kind of movie, like, that's the thing where I'm like, I don't know if I've ever even seen a noir kind of deconstructionist film. So there you go. It's testy, but I still don't think it necessarily quite makes the list. And we got to think about how many spaces are in that thing.
Ooh, we definitely have to, like, probably find a format that we have to limit it to. Like, what have we filled with?
Because then we got to think if I got to take something out to make room. You know?
Yes, we must make a list.
That'd be a lot of fun. So, all right, guys. Well, let us know if it would make it into your space pod for the aliens, and we love you.
See you guys.